Hello and welcome to this new season of Perspectives, the weekly edition. And we're going to begin the new season by looking at the largest and probably the most significant Catholic event of the year, World Youth Day. Now, 600,000 young people descended upon the city of Madrid last month in August for World Youth Day, and about 1.5 million people gathered for the Vigil and the closing Mass. Now, when you have such large crowds, there is potential for discomfort, for chaos, and maybe World Youth Day is not for everybody. And so today we're wondering if you need to go to World Youth Day to have that World Youth Day experience. But for those of you who are maybe new to the World Youth Day phenomenon, we start with, what is World Youth Day?
World Youth Day is a Catholic event for youth celebrated every Palm Sunday on the diocesan level and every few years internationally. It was Blessed Pope John Paul II who sowed the first World Youth Day seed in 1984 when he entrusted the youth of the world with the Cross of Christ. The following year, the first official World Youth Day event was held in Rome. Since then, the World Youth Day experience has spanned generations of pilgrims who have all accepted the Holy Father's invitation to celebrate their faith publicly, and in doing so have encountered Christ with and through each other. The international celebration has evolved into a 10-day event, beginning with the days in the diocese, where youth experience the local church and their host nation. At the beginning of the second week, pilgrims are welcomed by the local ordinary at the opening Mass. Throughout the week, pilgrims attend catechesis with the bishops. A highlight, however, is the iconic welcoming ceremony for the Pope's arrival. This event kicks off what some term as the World Youth Day Triduum. On Friday, there is a reenactment of the Stations of the Cross. The next morning, pilgrims make their way to the Vigil site, where they will hold vigil with the Holy Father and stay overnight. And on Sunday morning, pilgrims join the Holy Father as he celebrates the closing Mass. The Vigil and closing Mass are highlights for many, as they mark the culmination of years of spiritual preparation. Seeds of faith are sown generously during World Youth Day, and years later, thousands of vocations are the enduring fruits.
And we're now joined by two Salt and Light associate producers, Cheridan, Eygelaar,
Thank you for having
and
me.
Andrew Santos. Both of you were in Madrid.
Yes, indeed.
And also someone else who was in Madrid, joining us via Skype from the University of Windsor, is Father Chris Valka. Welcome, Father Chris.
Thank you.
Father Chris is a World Youth Day veteran. He worked at the World Youth Day office in Sydney. And I know that your World Youth Day roots date to Denver, but I'm not going to date you too much, Father Chris. So since we're hoping to see whether we need to go to World Youth Day, whether in order to have that World Youth Day experience, perhaps it's safe to start by trying to define that World Youth Day experience. So what do you guys think?
Well, World Youth Day is, definitely a very unique event. It's very youth focused. So it's an opportunity for the hierarchy of the church to turn towards the lay people and the youth in particular and say, what are your concerns? How can we address that? And so I think that's something that's very interesting. I mean, forgive me, I don't know of anyone else who can mobilize the youth to such an extent.
Okay, so the relationship between the hierarchy of the church and the lay church, the young church. Okay, so that's one component. Andrew?
World Youth Day is a defining and pivotal moment in the church's history. I'll agree with what Cheridan said. World Youth Day, it reignites a fire in the Catholic Christian faith of our young people. I can understand both arguments that you need to go to World Youth Day to have a World Youth Day experience, but you don't really have to. In my opinion, you do. There's just something so powerful about meeting people from all over the world, from exchanging high fives in the streets, from getting on your knees and stuff like that.
That's fair. And just don't jump ahead because we're still defining. Father Chris, what do you think?
I think World Youth Day is, I've always said it's kind of an incarnational experience, and in a sacramental church where we often take invisible realities and make them visible.
Yeah.
I think the World Youth Day is a way of taking the concept of the universal church and making it very visible and very much a reality for the people who go see it.
Okay, so you've all mentioned important, I think, aspects of World Youth Day, that it has to be universal from around the world. Nobody mentioned youth. I think that that's an important component, that it's young people. It's not...
because anybody that goes to World Youth Day, Pedro, would know that it is definitely meant for the youth.
It is meant for the youth. It's meant to be universal. There's something about the hierarchical church meeting the lay church. It's an incarnational experience. Any other elements that you think are important for it to be World Youth Day?
Catechesis with the bishops. So, I mean, I think
So
the
that's
whole
part of
catechesis
that-
aspect.
That's
of
part
it.
of that meeting
Yes.
between the hierarchical church and the lay church.
And just generally the witness value of it. The fact that it's not only the people inside of it that get fed, but people outside of this proclamation, this public display of our love for the faith.
You mean like the people in the
Well,
host
it's not
city?
just that.
Yeah.
Sorry, Father Chris?
It's not just that. I mean, let's face it, when those young people are all around, I mean, they're thrilled to have an experience with the Holy Father.
Uh-huh.
So part of World Youth Day really is the fact that the Holy Father is present with all of the youth in a very special way during the week.
That's absolutely true. We had someone on Facebook to say, and he said, when we posted the question, and he said, the presence of Peter. And of course, he means the successor of Peter. But then I thought, well, what? So I can go to the Wednesday general audience in Rome and have a World Youth Day experience? So it's not just that, right? That's not what you're saying, Father Chris?
No, it's not just that, but it is certainly an element. I think the question you would want to ask is, would it be World Youth Day without the Pope?
Exactly. And we ask that question all the time, because on the Pope doesn't arrive until Thursday, but by then it's day 3 of World Youth Day.
I think it's ongoing. It's all the preparation that leads up to it. And ultimately, it's not even about the Pope. It's about an encounter with Christ. So, I mean, it's a physical journey that is a spiritual journey.
Okay, but that's a good question. I want to explore that a little bit. If the Holy Father got sick or something happened and he was not able to go, World Youth Day would continue, but would it be the same? No.
It would be different. But, I mean, there's not...
But would it be World Youth Day?
It would, in a sense, be World Youth Day, but in a completely different element.
Okay.
Because, just having Pope Benedict there, or whoever the Pope is, to celebrate, the Eucharist with the hundreds of thousands of young people, it's interesting. It's beautiful. It's having the hierarchy of the church, building partnerships, building relationships with our young people.
Right.
It shows that, yes, the church, the hierarchy of the church, cares about our young people and the future of the church.
And it's also it's a contrast, because, for example, we've got the British youth rioting at around the same time, and we've got this huge gathering of young people coming together to praise God, and they're joyful, right? So it's a big difference, and I think that it's because the way that you view someone or the way that you treat them ends up what they end up being, right? And the church looks at the youth and looks at all people with love and dignity. And so this is an opportunity for people the church trusts the youth. And that's what Pope John Paul did in 1984 when he gave the cross of Christ to the youth. He said, take this around the world and proclaim Christ. And so it's a tremendous moment.
Okay. Yeah, what about other elements that are, I think, important to World Youth Day? The element of pilgrimage, the cross that you mentioned.
I was about to say, Pedro, you can't forget the pilgrimage piece in
Yeah.
all of this, because World Youth Day really is kind of the midway point of the pilgrimage, right? You've got all the lead up before, and then all the coming home afterwards. So this is kind of halfway into the pilgrimage when they're actually at the World Youth Day.
So, but by pilgrimage, do you mean like sleeping on the floor, or not sleeping, or walking? That kind of experience. What do we mean by pilgrimage?
Cheridan said it well. I think it's this physical representation of a spiritual journey.
A physical representation. That sounds very sacramental.
It is.
Yeah.
Well,
okay,
there's an outward sign of an inward grace, and that's what the sacraments are about, and I think that's what World Youth Day is about. I think you get to experience the church as that living, breathing, universal reality, and I think that's what's so inspiring, because you always think of it as a concept, but then when you go there and you see so many different people.
Okay.
Yeah, it's about laying down, all the comfort, like all your possessions and everything, just for the joy of others and for the joy of the trip.
Okay, so pilgrimage, we kind of pilgrimage as a verb under the cross or with the cross, with the saints. We gather with other people from other countries. We meet with the hierarchical church, with the Holy Father.
Most importantly, friendships. Pope Benedict talked about that on his way to World Youth Day. He said this is a time where people become friends because your friends shape you. They, they take the course. They determine the course of your life.
Okay.
And so, faith is community.
Okay, so if I go to the Eucharistic Congress that's going to be in Dublin next year, it's not for youth, it's for anyone. It's an international experience. Let's say that the Holy Father decided that he wanted to go, so the Holy Father's there. There are catechesis sessions with bishops. There's a lot of the same elements, maybe not pilgrimage to the same extent, but maybe for some people who want to do it on a budget. Is that a World Youth Day experience? Or is it just a church experience?
I think World Youth Day is different because it's youth coming together, right? And he's addressing questions from the youth. I mean, he does this in Quattro Vientos at the Vigil. He addressed questions from the youth. He's talking to them in the beginning. He's opening addresses. It's all about this time in your life, which is so special, that time when you're looking for purpose and for meaning and how do I live my life as Christ is calling me to? So that's what's different. I mean, no one else is at that point in their life.
Yeah, the Holy Father really went out of his way to make sure that he answered the questions, he cared, and he did that. And he did that by offering a gift to each pilgrim who went. If anyone who went got a copy of the UCAT, and you could see actually what was beautiful to see is walking throughout the streets of Madrid, middle of the afternoon on a hot day, and you would see people reading, actively, passionately reading the UCAT, and it said on the bottom, a gift from the Holy Father.
No, it is true, and I know. I mean, I've been reading it. We received a comment that I want to read before we just close off this half. Question: do you have to go to World Youth Day to have a World Youth Day experience? This came in from Scott Sanderson from Cornwall, Ontario, and he says, though I was unable to travel to Madrid this year for World Youth Day, I have friends who went with Catholic Christian Outreach. They told me that during the final Mass, Pope Benedict XVI preached that a relationship with Christ was where true meaning, purpose, and joy are found. Hearing that our Holy Father spoke so simply about the person of Christ tells me that you can have a World Youth Day experience, that is, an experience of intimacy with Christ and His Church without going to World Youth Day itself. We do this by knowing God in prayer, by meeting Him in the sacraments, in service, and in fellowship. So just quickly, what do you guys think? Do you agree with Scott?
I think that everybody who goes there with the purpose of trying to encounter Christ, yes, will have a World Youth experience. Although there are defining characteristics.
In the sense of, of encountering. Andrew?
I do agree with what he's saying, because even say for example, going on a pilgrimage with 500 youth to, say, Martyr Shrine, or going wherever it may be, there's still young people there. There are activities there. Obviously, it's different because you may not have an archbishop, you may not have a pope, but they're still there because the elements of pilgrimage are practically the same, and they want to see Christ.
Yeah, Father Chris?
No, I actually don't think so. I'll take the different road. I mean, I think it's kind of like going to the express version of a restaurant versus the full thing. I mean, you get elements, you get taste, but it's a reduced menu, if you will. Okay,
that's fair. We're going to take a little break right now, but it's a short break, so don't go anywhere. We're going to come back, we're going to continue this discussion, and in particular, we're going to look at what happened to thousands of pilgrims in Madrid who were expecting to have a World Youth Day experience. So stay tuned.
Let us know your perspective. Email us at perspectives@saltandlighttv.org or reach us by mail, Perspectives at Salt and Light Television, 114 Richmond Street East, Toronto, Ontario, M5C 1P1, or call us toll-free at 1-888-302-7181. Let your perspective be heard.
We're just waiting to be there, part of the whole group and the whole Catholic Church celebrating Jesus.
Being here with the Holy Father and Sir St. Peter is going to be an amazing experience.
Well, the Vigil is just like this big culmination of the entire week. So you spend the week just sort of preparing for it.
And in terms of weathering tonight, what have you brought in terms of supplies?
Myself, I was counting on Spain being nice and sunny like it has been for the rest of the week. So what you see is what you get. I'm going to get soaked. But that's okay. That's part of World Youth Days, and we'll just have to suffer through it and come out stronger tomorrow.
So those we have some pilgrims from Madrid, some of their expectations as they were going to the vigil, very hot day, and then how things changed a little bit. Now, you both were there, Andrew and Cheridan. You both went to the vigil.
Yeah.
What were your expectations?
Well, I didn't know what to expect, so I was...
It's your first World Youth
Yeah,
Day.
and I was in awe and overwhelmed. Just at the scale, it's that many people in one place. I've never experienced that in my life before, so that was something interesting. Although, I thought it would be prayerful, and there was a storm in the middle of it, so that was something that
But it was prayerful.
Yeah, it did during Eucharistic adoration, which was phenomenal, right? That moment of silence after all that wind gusting and the lightning and the pouring rain. It was phenomenal. It was a strong contrast between the two experiences.
Okay.
Andrew?
Andrew?
Yeah,
my vigil...
Sorry, Father Chris?
I would just say, Cheridan, I think that's part of the deal, though, that a lot of people, we have these very limited notions of what prayer might be, what a certain experience might be, but World Youth Day always breaks us out of those kind of the preconceived notions we have of what church or prayer or might be.
Yeah, and I think that's one of the key elements. But Andrew, what were your expectations going to the vigil?
Honestly, the whole week of World Youth Day, I was really looking forward to the vigil, because the vigil is again the defining moment of World Youth Day, like getting to sleep outside, and Madrid being my second international pilgrimage, having gone to Sydney, and having experienced Sydney and the overwhelming beauty of the pilgrims and the prayer and the whole atmosphere was just incredible. And but it was very different this time, because the crowds, the heat really took the energy out of you. And then, having to find out that after walking 3.5, 4 hours, that all the gates are sealed and that you can't get in.
So you didn't get in.
So we practically got up to the last gate, and we didn't even approach the gate because we were told that it was closed. So, and frustration does set in, because you've been walking, and really that's everything you've been hoping.
But
and
how
dreaming.
many people were gathered outside the gates that didn't get in? Do you know?
Well, the group that I traveled with, there was 96 of us that went as a whole group to Madrid, but I would say maybe we were with 70. Half of the group dropped out halfway during the walk, and they decided to take the subway, because we had people with different inabilities to walk. And anybody who got on the subway, got on the metro at that moment, got into the vigil.
Because they were there earlier.
Because they were there. Well, I guess, but...
yeah. Now, sorry, just before I ask Father Chris what he thinks, at the opening Mass, you were there.
I was.
Both of you were there.
Yeah.
You couldn't see anything? You couldn't hear anything?
I was a little bit away from Plaza de Cibeles, and where I was, probably at least a block or two away. You could see the screen, you could see everything that was going on, but there was no audio.
Okay.
And you could hardly hear anything that was going on.
Did you receive communion?
No.
You did not receive communion?
Did not receive communion, and I couldn't hear the Mass.
Do you feel that you were at Mass?
At first, no. But as Mass went on, I did, get into the element of being a part of Mass and being a part of the celebration. I say that because during the homily, someone had pulled out their radio, and we realized that they were streaming the English channel through the radio, and actually no, it was Spanish. And we had someone next to us, a fellow pilgrim who's Spanish, and she was translating while somebody else was yelling the homily into a crowd of people, which I thought was just absolutely fantastic. So, amidst all the craziness going on, sitting in front of a car full of fumes, as it was being run, it was beautiful. Now, I still got to hear the message of the Holy Father. I couldn't hear the Holy Father speak it, but I could still hear the basics of the message. So I did feel I was at Mass.
Now,
as it went on.
Father Chris, you and I were not at most of the events. We were doing the coverage, and we watched most of it we watched all of it on TV. And in a sense, we probably, because we heard everything, we had all the translations, we know what the messages were, so in a sense, our experience was very different. Would you say that we had a World Youth experience, even though we were not there with the crowds?
We did. We were with the crowds, but just not at those exact moments. I mean, So, I mean, we were with them at the Palacio. We were with them at,
Right.
on the streets. I mean, I think we got to see it, but you're right. I mean, we had a different vantage point. I guess what I would say is that all these things remind me very much of the scriptural, the real experience of what we read about in the scriptures. We romanticize it now, but so many of these encounters with Christ for people were kind of chaotic, and they weren't what they expected. And so I think in many ways it's a chance for us to be able to get a glimpse of some of those events of long ago today.
Yeah.
Another thing that really struck me is the volunteers. A lot of those people have given up a year of their lives, and they're in all of these major events, but they're organizing, so they're not participating directly either.
Yeah.
And so, did they not have a World Youth Day experience? No, because they were serving others in that time,
Well,
right?
what we were doing, in a way, it's the same thing. It is the World Youth Day experience. It's not the same World Youth Day experience.
In a different light.
In a different light. We kind of have to leave it there, but I want to get everybody to have a chance at saying, so in conclusion, if we could conclude, because I don't think there is a right or wrong answer, but what do you think? Do you need to go to World Youth Day to have a World Youth Day experience, or not? What do you think, Cheridan?
I think that it is one of the most unique things you can ever experience. You don't need to be there. You can encounter Christ through prayer, and as long as you're willing and want to encounter Christ, He's there, right? So I don't think you have to, but it's certainly something that will feed your soul.
Okay, good. Andrew?
Every young Catholic should go to World Youth Day to kind of understand what pilgrimage is all about.
Yeah.
And I think you do need to go to World Youth Day.
Absolutely.
It's completely different. The atmosphere, the language barrier. I love the language barrier. I can't understand what they're saying half the time, but it's different. It's beautiful.
Okay, Father Chris?
I think that it's much like, I guess my analogy of the menu before. I mean, I think you have to go. Most people experience church by what they see in Sunday Mass, and that's an experience of Christ, but it's not World Youth Day.
I would maybe go as far as saying that it's not really church, actually. I think that if you really want to experience church, you have to go to World Youth Day or something similar. I'd say Eucharistic Congress or something like that. But anyway, we have to leave it there. The discussion continues at facebook.saltandlighttv.org. We're going to conclude our conversation by reflecting on this Sunday's Gospel. It's the 25th Sunday in Ordinary Time, reading from Matthew chapter 20, verse 1 to 16, and it goes like this. When those hired about 5 o'clock came, each of them received the usual daily wage. Now, when the first came, they thought that they would receive more, but each of them also received the usual daily wage. And when they received it, they grumbled against the landowner, saying, "These last worked only 1 hour, and you have made them equal to us, who have borne the burden of the day and the scorching heat." But he replied to one of them, "Friend, I am doing you no wrong. Did you not agree with me for the usual daily wage? Take what belongs to you and go. I choose to give to this last the same as I give to you. Am I not allowed to do what I choose with what belongs to me? Or are you envious because I am generous? So the last will be first, and the first will be last." That's an excerpt from this Sunday's Gospel from Matthew chapter 20, verses 1 to 16. Cheridan, would you like to share something?
I think that's just a great example of to love means to serve in God's kingdom, and to serve increases your love. So, look at it as an opportunity to increase your love, and it doesn't matter when you come in. It just means how willing you are to participate.
Yeah, good. Andrew?
That passage is so fitting, I think, because the burden of the day and the scorching of the heat, and that's exactly what happened at the vigil. But you must put your faith into action in some way. In order to live out your faith, you have to love. So, great passage.
I didn't write it, so it's a great passage. Father Chris, any thoughts?
I think I agree. It's a great kind of passage for a conversation on World Youth Day. I think all the pilgrims, they sign up, and all of us in our faith, we say we're going to believe in this. We're going to walk down this journey. It may not be what we expect, but it's everything that we really need it to be, and that's we put our trust in saying, I'm going to have an experience, and if we leave it open, then God will be generous with us.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, very good. That's a good point to end Thank you very much. We've been joined today by two Salt and Light associate producers, Cheridan Eygelaar and Andrew Santos.
Thank you, Pedro.
And joining us via Skype from the University of Windsor is Father Chris Valka. Thank you all. To find out more about World Youth Day, or if you want to watch what happened at World Youth Day Madrid, you should visit our new website, wyDcentral.org. It's the new portal for everything and anything World Youth Day related. And to watch this program again, or if you missed a portion of it, or to watch any Perspectives show, visit our website, saltandlighttv.org/perspectives. That's where we archive all our shows. And don't forget to visit us on Facebook, facebook.saltandlighttv.org. That's where we post the question of the week, and we cannot do this show without your perspective. So that's all for tonight. We'll see you next week. Thanks, guys.